The Hollow Road. The mile markers started wrong at 11:47 p.m. Dana Marsh noticed because she always noticed mile markers. It was a habit from the early years of driving, when she had been 17 and anxious and had needed the markers the way some people needed landmarks, needed the proof that she was covering distance, that the miles were being eaten up behind her and there was less of the journey ahead than there had been. She had been driving for 3 hours. The highway was the kind of highway that existed in the specific geography of the American interior. 2 lanes, no median, the occasional reflective post catching her headlights and throwing the light back at her in small, cold bursts. The fields on both sides were flat and dark and went on forever in the way that flat, dark fields go on forever when you are alone in a car at midnight and the radio has stopped picking up anything except static. She had passed mile marker 187 4 minutes ago. She was expecting 188. The sign said 186. She looked at it in her rearview mirror as it disappeared behind her. She looked at the road ahead. She slowed the car. She had been driving east. She was certain she had been driving east. The sun had set behind her 3 hours ago. She had watched it go in the rearview mirror, the specific red and orange of a plain sunset that looked like something burning from a distance. She had not turned around. She had not taken any exits because there had been no exits on this highway for the last hour and a half, which was unusual but not alarming, which was the kind of thing that happened on the roads in the interior where the exits were sometimes 40 miles apart. She had not turned around. She looked at the next sign. The numbers were going down. She stopped the car in the middle of the road. There was no other traffic, had not been other traffic for 2 hours, the highway entirely hers, and she sat with the engine running and the headlights cutting their 40 feet into the dark ahead of her, and she looked at the road. She had not turned around. The numbers were going down. She picked up her phone. No signal. This was not a surprise. She had lost signal an hour ago and had been navigating from memory and from the highway signs. She had done this before. The interior ate signals. She looked at the mile marker ahead. She thought about turning around. She thought about it for a full minute, the specific cost-benefit analysis of someone who is 3 hours from home and has just noticed something wrong. If she turned around, she would be driving back the way she came. If the markers had been going the wrong direction all along, she would now be driving toward higher numbers. If they had been correct and had somehow reversed, she would be driving into whatever had reversed them. She did not turn around. She did not know why she did not turn around. She put the car in drive and she kept going. The markers continued their countdown. She drove. She noticed other things as the numbers descended. Small things. The reflective posts on the sides of the road were the right color, white on the right, red on the left, the standard configuration, but they were placed wrong. Too close together. Closer than regulations required, closer than she had ever seen them, as if whatever had placed them had not known the rules or had known them and had decided the rules did not apply here. The road surface changed. Not dramatically. It was still asphalt, still 2 lanes, still the right width, but the texture of it under her tires was different, older. The specific sound of driving on very old asphalt, the sound before they repaved with the modern materials, a sound she recognized from childhood road trips with her father on roads that had not been maintained in decades. The road was getting older as the numbers went down. She noticed this, and she did not stop. She did not know why she did not stop. The fields changed. The crops, she had assumed they were crops, the standard corn or soy of the interior, too dark to identify, the crops became something else. Lower, closer to the ground, not planted in rows. She could see them in the peripheral reach of her headlights, and they were not planted in rows, and they were not crops, and she did not look at them directly. She kept her eyes on the road. She was crying, and she had not noticed when she started. She was crying and driving and looking at the road and not looking at the things in the fields on either side, which were no longer the right height for crops or for any plants she could name, and which were moving in a way that the night air did not account for. The radio came on. She had turned the radio off 2 hours ago because the static had given her a headache. She had pressed the power button and the radio had gone off. It came on now without her touching anything, and it was not static. It was a voice. Just one voice, speaking in a measured cadence that was almost but not quite the cadence of regular speech, slightly too regular, the spaces between words slightly too even, the way a voice sounds when it has learned speech from a recording rather than from living among speakers. It said, "Mile marker 0 is 11 minutes ahead. You have been expected. The road does not go past mile marker 0. The road has never gone past mile marker 0. You will want to stop before mile marker 0. You will not stop before mile marker 0. She reached for the radio. The voice said, "Do not turn it off." She did not turn it off. She was crying and driving and not turning off the radio and not looking at the things in the fields. The road was very old now. She could feel it through the steering wheel, the vibration of ancient asphalt under tires, the specific communication of a road that had been here before the highway system had a name. The voice said, 1 minute. She looked at the road ahead. She could see mile marker 0. It was in the middle of the road, not on the shoulder, in the middle where nothing should be, the green sign on its post standing directly in the middle of the lane, and she understood that the road ended there, that the asphalt stopped at the base of the sign, and beyond it there was nothing, no road, no shoulder, no field, nothing. Just dark. A dark that had depth to it, that went down instead of out, that wasn't the absence of light, but the presence of something that was the opposite of light. She pressed the brake. The car slowed. She stopped 20 feet from mile marker 0. She sat with the engine running and the headlights cutting their 40 feet into the dark ahead of her, and she looked at the road. The voice on the radio was silent. The things in the fields on both sides had stopped moving. Everything was still. She looked at the dark beyond the sign. Something in the dark looked back. She could not see it, could not see anything in that dark. It was too complete, too absolute, but she felt it the way you feel something in a room with you that you cannot see, the specific displacement of air that large things make, the way the darkness changes quality when it is occupied. It was very large. It had been waiting for a very long time. The voice on the radio said, very quietly, "You can go back now. The road goes back. It has always gone back." A pause. "It chose not to keep you tonight. It does not always choose that." She put the car in drive. She drove backwards for 100 feet. Then she turned the car around, a 3-point turn on the ancient asphalt with the things in the fields still and watching, and she drove. The markers went up. The road surface smoothed, the reflective posts went back to the right spacing, the things in the fields became crops again. She could not say exactly when, just that at some point they were crops again. She drove. Her phone found a signal at mile marker 47. She did not stop until she reached a town, a real town, lit with a gas station and a diner still open at 2 a.m., and she sat in the parking lot of the diner for a long time before she went inside. The waitress poured her coffee without asking. She looked at the coffee. She looked at the window and the dark road beyond the diner's lights. The waitress said, without being asked, without any prompt, "You didn't stop, did you?" Dana looked at her. "Before the 0, the waitress said. She was not asking. She was not surprised. She had the expression of someone asking a question they already know the answer to and are confirming for the record. "No," Dana said. The waitress nodded. "They come through here sometimes, the ones that make it back." She poured more coffee. "It doesn't take everyone. Nobody knows why it takes some and lets others go." She paused. "Did you see it?" "No," Dana said. "I felt it." The waitress nodded. "That's what they all say." She went back to the counter. "Don't drive that road again." Dana looked at the window, at the dark beyond the diner's lights. "No," she said. She did not drive that road again. But sometimes, when she was driving somewhere familiar and the mile markers were counting up the way mile markers were supposed to count, she felt something. a quality of attention, like something in a very large dark noticing where she was, knowing she had been close, knowing she would be back. It was patient. It had always been patient.
Next time on Dark Matter.
He heard it stop, outside the crawlspace hatch, on the basement floor. He had left the hatch open. He heard it come down. He heard it cross the basement floor. He heard it stop, at the entrance to the crawlspace. He shined the flashlight. A man was crouching at the hatch. Thin, pale in the way of someone who has not been in sunlight for a long time. His clothes were the clothes of a person who had been wearing the same things for months, unwashed, worn, the fabric thinning at the elbows and knees. His hair was long and matted. His face was the face of someone who had once been ordinary and had been doing something extraordinary for so long that the ordinary had been replaced by something else.
Please like and subscribe.